Hi guys, it's Debbie. Today I wanted to speak about Fight Club and give a full explanation of its plot. Fight Club is actually based on a novel by the same name written by Chuck Palahniuk, so I would recommend reading the book or watching the film before seeing this video because it will be spoiler packed. So Fight Club is the story of an unnamed man, which we will call the narrator, a person affected by multiple personality disorder. The narrator is stuck in an unsatisfactory life made just of work, and he fills the gaps in his life by buying unnecessary objects, such as huge amounts of IKEA furniture. As a matter of fact, the narrator depends on consumerism. For example, he spends many hours watching TV commercials, this also because he suffers of insomnia. The narrator contacts his doctor asking for a cure for his insomnia, and the doctor makes him understand that he is complaining for nothing and that he should visit support groups for cancer victims to understand what pain really is. The narrator attends one of these groups one evening, and meeting these people and listening to their stories makes him feel sort of free and helps him to sleep. He starts to attend various cancer support groups, and every time he also pretends to be ill. Everything goes fine, he manages to sleep, until he notices another person behaving exactly like he is. This person is a woman called Marla Singer. The narrator is annoyed by her presence as she disrupts his plans and doesn't allow him to rest and feel free as he used to, and after a brief discussion they exchange numbers. After these events, the narrator takes a flight home from one of his business trips, and on this flight he meets a man called Tyler Durden. Now, Tyler Durden and the narrator are the same person. As I said before, the narrator has a form of psychosis which basically makes him think that Tyler Durden is another person. He speaks to him as if he was a completely different person, but in reality Tyler Durden is just a figment of his imagination and they are just exactly the same person. At first the narrator doesn't understand that he has created Tyler Durden. He doesn't understand that he is part of his imagination, or at least doesn't want to admit it to himself. So he just continues believing that Tyler Durden is a complete stranger. As a matter of fact, Tyler Durden is everything that the narrator has always wanted to be. He is good looking, relaxed, easygoing, and also a bit edgy, but most importantly, he doesn't care for the material aspects of life. On the contrary, he is enraged about how the human race is starting to become a slave to consumerism, to huge corporations, spending its existence buying, and not appreciating life. So Tyler represents everything that's been kept hidden down in a dark part of the narrator's mind. The director of Fight Club described the narrator by stating, "He's tried to do everything he was taught to do, tried to fit into the world by becoming something he isn't." Tyler Durden is a dark part of the narrator's subconscious, which is exactly opposite to how the narrator behaves. He wants chaos. Chaos is his number one thought in life. For example, let's take a look at one of Tyler Durden's jobs. He basically works at a cinema and he tampers with the film reels, adding brief frames to the film reel in which there are inappropriate scenes. For example, we have images of naked people. The people who see the film won't immediately perceive the images because they only last for a fraction of a second, but the image will somehow stick into their subconscious, upsetting them. So Tyler is again creating chaos. The narrator just spends his life at home watching TV commercials, buying IKEA furniture, being depressed, suffering of insomnia. Instead, Tyler Durden is absolutely the opposite. He is the anarchist in the narrator's mind. But remember, they are exactly the same person. Tyler Durden is just a part of the narrator's mind. There are a lot of clues throughout the film that Tyler and the narrator are the same person. For example, the narrator receives a call by Tyler on a public telephone, and this public telephone has a notice on it saying "no incoming calls allowed." Or for example, when they meet on the plane, they have the same briefcase. They only pay one fare when both of them step onto the bus. But most importantly, if you look carefully, when the narrator starts to have a relationship with Marla Singer, Marla is never seen in the room with both men at the same time. She's either seen with the narrator or with Tyler. All three of them are never in the same room together because Tyler and the narrator are the same person. It's hard to imagine, but Marla sees the narrator and Tyler as exactly the same person. They even look the same. They are not physically different. They do behave differently. That's why Marla gets so annoyed, because sometimes the narrator treats him in a certain way and sometimes he treats her in another way, but they are the same person. So let's get back to the plot. When Tyler and the narrator get off the plane on which they met, the narrator discovers that an explosion has destroyed his apartment, so he decides to move into Tyler's house, which is basically just a dilapidated house in an abandoned neighborhood. Although the house is a wreck, the narrator seems to appreciate it because he is finally free of all the objects he had in his apartment. He is free from all the pressure of consumerism. One evening, Tyler and the narrator get into a fight, which in reality is just the narrator hitting himself. This fact of fighting, feeling pain, feeling something, helps the narrator escape from the numb world in which he lived. Soon other men which lived the same monotonous life as the narrator lived start to join him in this fight club. Basically, it is a weekly meeting in which the men can get into fights and feel something, feel the pain, and distracting themselves from their life, pushing themselves to the limit. Soon the fight club grows and more clubs are formed. It becomes more organised, also creating Project Mayhem. The project aims to defeating consumerism and huge corporations through small acts of vandalism. So it starts to leave its original recreational aim and starts to become more of a paramilitary group. Soon the fight club is completely out of control. Tyler has always bigger aspirations. For example, he makes new members undergo hard tests in order to enter it. The narrator and the other men are turning up at work completely covered in blood and in distress. The acts of vandalism become always more violent, and the fight club starts to earn money by stealing discarded fat from liposuction surgeries and making soap with it. So the famous soap bar you see in all fight club posters is actually made by human fat. Tyler also starts educating people into appreciating life by pushing them to their limits, because he believes that people don't acknowledge the beauty of life. So basically what he does is he threatens people that he will kill them, that they will die, only to reveal at the last second that they will survive, making them appreciate more their life from that moment onwards. So basically Tyler, so the narrator, hates adapting into this world. He hates huge corporations, he hates these huge advertisements, he hates having to depend on material things. As a matter of fact, he says the famous sentence, which is, "It's like polishing brass on the Titanic," which means that concentrating on futile things makes us forget the fact that in the world there are bigger and more worrying things going on, and life is much more meaningful. The narrator is frightened by the size of the project and tries to stop it, but obviously to the members of the fight club, him and Tyler appear as the same person. Tyler is just part of his imagination. It's been the narrator instructing them on what to do, telling them to commit these acts of vandalism. And Tyler, this dark part of his mind, instructed the members of the fight club not to stop if the narrator appeared, and ordered them to shut down the fight club and shut down Project Mayhem. So when the narrator orders the members of the fight club to shut down the project, the members of the fight club say that they were prepared to receive this order and that they have been instructed to continue anyway. Also, the club is so widespread that also members of the police belong to it, so the narrator can't even rely on law enforcement agencies. At this point, the narrator understands or decides to admit to himself that Tyler is part of his mind. This part of his mind sort of came to life in certain moments in which he thought he was sleeping. The scary fact is that Tyler has decided to erase debt by placing explosives in buildings where the credit card information was handled. When the narrator tries to stop him, Tyler points a gun at his head. The narrator is frightened, but then understands that he is actually pointing a gun to himself, because him and Tyler are the same person. He decides to pull the trigger. The gunshot doesn't kill him, it only heavily wounds him, but Tyler is eliminated. He has managed to stop projecting Tyler. By now though, the explosives detonate anyway, and him and Marla watch as the skyline of the city slowly starts to crumble. So the ending is left a bit without explanation. It could be that that gunshot actually killed the narrator, and that those last images he is seeing is his mind still imagining while he is dying. In general, Fight Club has a lot of different interpretations. For example, some people say that Marla Singer is also part of the narrator's imagination, as in some scenes we don't see her reflection, as we don't see Tyler's, or for example that she seems only to interact with them, or she wears very similar clothes to the ones that Tyler and the narrator wear, and the scenes in which Marla and the narrator having sex could be the narrator just masturbating. Other people actually say that neither Bob, but one of the members of the support group, is real. So it is open to different explanations. Let me know what you thought about Fight Club, especially about the ending, and if you enjoyed watching Fight Club or reading the novel, I would recommend watching a TV series called Mr. Robot, which is heavily influenced by Palahniuk's ideas. See you soon in a new video. Bye!